recorded this video like 3 times and my phone died, so I'm gonna try and get it out the way. But this is my story time on when I survived a blood clot. Now, I know that my personality, like, I kiki about a lot of things, but this is not a laughing matter. So if you feel that you are having a medical emergency and maybe you feel like you're having some of the symptoms of a blood clot, you need to go to the ER now. You needed to go yesterday, sis, but go now. So anyway, let's take it back to last year, the day before Valentine's Day. I was working full time. I was living in a city about 30 minutes from my hometown, from where my parents are. And our area is made up of little cities all around. So it's 7 cities that make up this metropolitan area. So the city that I was living in is close to a city called Virginia Beach, which is one of the larger cities in this area. So I'm a part of the Yelp Elite Squad, and if you're not familiar, on Yelp, it's basically just a club that each Yelp community manager in whatever metro area you live in, they started, and it's a great way to just build community through Yelp. And so you can nominate yourself to be a part of the group, and if you have good reviews, they have a nominating committee and they go through and they approve you to be a part of the group. And what you get is basically exclusive access to restaurants and businesses in your area, and they might hold special events like meet and greets, sip and sees, grand openings or soft openings and launches, just to get a feel for how their new menu items or how their new business might be received by their community. And Yelp plays a huge part in promoting, businesses in local areas and local communities. So I'm a part of this group, right? So we were gonna have an event the day before Valentine's Day. It was like a Valentine's social at a place in Virginia Beach called Beachside Social. And they're supposed to be like a replica of a 1950s beach club. They have shuffleboarding and fun activities, and they have like a cafeteria where you can grab little cute food like coconut shrimp. Like, we're a beach town, so like beach inspired stuff is you go here for that type of stuff. And I remember at work, I was like, oh, I'm going to this event and it's going to be fun, because it was going to be like my first Yelp event with the Elite Squad. But I had like a tingling pain in my chest. Now, I do have asthma and I am overweight, but those are like my only underlying conditions. Like, that to me ain't really all that serious, you know what I mean? Because my asthma is like a childhood illness that kind of creeps into my adult life when it wants to. But I began having a tingling sensation. And if you know me, like my friends and family, they all think that I'm like a hypochondriac, because the smallest hint of pain or if something doesn't feel right in my body, I know immediately. And big ups to my parents for making sure we had medical insurance when I was younger, because I just remember us going to the doctor and having that privilege to be able to go to the doctor, which, I don't say that lightly I don't take that lightly, because I know that some people don't have the access to medical care when they need it, but I'm very thankful for always being able to go to the doctor when I needed to. But in some ways, I think in my mind that has created a hypochondriac, because anytime I feel like something is wrong, I'm gonna make an appointment. I don't know about anybody else. I'm gonna make an appointment though. So at first I thought I was just kind of making too much out of something that was small, and all throughout the day, I kind of knew it was there and it was tingling, and I was like, this feels weird. I don't know. So, and it was like right in the center of my chest. So I went to the social. It was fun. And then I came home and I noticed that it was increasing, and it was feeling like kind of like a tight chest pain. And I was like, well, it is cold outside, cold weather affects my asthma. And I was just thinking that maybe if I watched some TV and went to go lay down, that I would feel better in the morning. And so I did that. I watched TV and it was still hurting. I forgot what was on. I think Love Jones or something was on TV. And The Wood was on. And I watched it and then I went to sleep. So throughout the night, I had the pain and it was getting worse, but I don't know why. In my mind, I was not thinking that it was a problem. Keep in mind, at the apartment that I was living in, I was literally walking distance to a hospital, an emergency room and all that. And nothing at the time clicked that maybe I should go to the hospital. So I go to sleep, blah, 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 wake up. Not only has the pain gotten sharper, it radiated from my back up my shoulder, and my arm felt limp and it hurt very bad. So I'm thinking, now I'm about to have a heart attack. So I called my mom, and I remember vividly, or I texted her or something. I was like, the pain has gotten worse. What should I do? And I remember her response being, you should try to get to the front door to unlock it in case you need to call the paramedics so that they can get in the house without having to break down the door or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's smart. And then my response, for some reason, I still did not realize what was really happening. I said, if I can get up, I'll just take a shower and drive to work. If any of you know what a blood clot is, a pulmonary embolism, deep vein thrombosis, you are not to drive a car while you are experiencing this. It is a matter of minutes that a blood clot can go from just a little bit of pain to you actually passing away. A matter of minutes. I don't know what was going through my mind. It definitely was not any thought of having a blood clot, but I don't know. I just figured, if I can get up, I can go to work. And I did, and I drove, and I remember being in the car crying on my way to work because I was in so much pain, getting into the garage at my job, being in so much pain. Now, the night before, I knew that the pain was getting worse, but I still didn't think much of it. But I wrote on Facebook, hey, does anybody know what a stabbing pain in your chest that kind of goes up your back means? And people were saying different things, and I think one person said a blood clot. And I was, for some reason, it did stand out, but I still didn't act on it. So I get to work, and I'm literally at my desk crying, trying to do work. At the time, I was a content marketing coordinator. So I'm like trying to go through some articles and edit them so we can put them on our blog for the company I was working for. And I remember watching my boss and my coworker go into a meeting, because although he was my boss from my department, he also was her boss, but she was in she did a separate job. So she had to have separate meetings sometimes with other people. And I remember both of them going, and I was like, cool. And I was just, I don't know, I was still trying to do the work. And I remember something said, look online and research the symptoms. So I looked it online, and I just typed in like pain in my chest radiating through my back. And an article came up of Serena Williams. So I remember taking out my phone and like typing in my notes, like Mahogany Waldon, first and last name, 26. I think I'm having a PE. And I wrote a private message to my boss, and I was like, I think I need to go to the emergency room. Like, help. So he came running out of the meeting room, and my coworker was like, do you need me to drive you? And I was like, no, I think I'm good. I got up to start walking, and I literally could not take steps. So I turned around. No, I called my mom, and I was like, I can't walk to the garage. And she's like, well, go see if your coworker will help you. And so I went back to my coworker, and I was like, hey sis, I know I said I didn't need help, but can you please help me? So she walks with me to her car. She was like, I'll just drive you to the ER. And as we're in the ER, she sees like the life being sucked from me. I couldn't even get into her car, barely. And she was just like, I'm just gonna call for the ambulance, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't think you're gonna make it in my car or whatever. And like, she's already a nervous person, so I felt so bad for having to put that on her. So she called 911, and we're trying to talk to the dispatcher, and we're basically just like, okay, I have somebody in my car, I don't know what's going on, da 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 da. She's in a whole lot of pain, and the pain was so bad. Oh my gosh, it hurt so bad. It's like somebody like crushing your lungs, sitting on your chest, but it's stabbing, and it's heavy, and it hurts so bad. So I can't breathe, I can't talk, I can't do anything. I can barely move without being in excruciating pain. And so they were like, okay, just meet us downstairs. So she drives me downstairs. Every turn of her car is just making me so uncomfortable. So we go downstairs and we hear the paramedics coming because the other hospital in town was not far from my job. So I talk to the paramedic. They come and open up the door. Like, security from our job is already outside. Like, what's going on? Like, all of that. And so I just showed them the note in my phone that said, I think I'm having a PE. And the paramedic was just like, why would you think that's happening? You're only 26. This usually doesn't happen to people your age. And I was like, I read an article. I just know. And I'm very thankful for that paramedic, because he was like, I don't think this is what the problem is, but I'm going to call it into the hospital as a blood clot, and they'll take it from there. So when the hospital gets that call, they know that there's something life-threatening going on. And when I got there, they were ready to like wheel me already to a little triage area and get me everything that I needed. The test that I need was already prepped and was already ready to go. So I really appreciate that paramedic. And then the hospital staff was like very, very accommodating. They wanted to know who I needed to call, who needed to come up there. But they do ask you a scary question when you are having a life-threatening ailment. They say, what would you like to happen if you stop like breathing? Like, do you want us to resuscitate you or not? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, well, you're 26, so you can bounce back. We'll resuscitate you. I was like, okay. But that was like a question I've never been asked before, so that was scary. So by the time my dad ended up driving from the city over, because he came to like stay with me or whatever, they had done an EKG, they had done a CAT scan, and they had also done an ultrasound like on my leg area, because usually a blood clot starts in your legs and travels to your lungs, and when it's in your lungs, that's when it kills you. Mine was already in my lung, but I had caught it like in the nick of time. And so all the doctors, the ER doctors, were coming in and they were like, you diagnosed your own blood clot? Like, you thought you were having one and you told the paramedics that you thought you were having one and you really had one. So good job, because most people who look up their symptoms on Google are not right, not even in the ballpark of what's actually happening to them. So they were like, sad part is you got to be admitted for 2 days. And we'll take care of you. To make a long story short, the care was very good. If you guys are in the Hampton Roads area, I stayed at Centera, Norfolk General. The nurses were so nice. I was not in, ICU or anything. I just had to be monitored and everything. They gave me like a heparin drip, which is like a blood thinner to get started. And it's just intravenous at that point through an IV. Then they asked me what type of blood thinners I wanted to go home with to start a 6-month treatment, because yeah, they just have to make sure that this does not happen again, because you will die. So that's how I found out. That's what the symptoms were. I ended up coming home with my parents because they had sent me home with narcotics and everything. And, I just wanted to stay on top of everything that was going on, because then I had to take 2 weeks out of work. And so I came home with my parents. The week that I had the clot, it was the day before Valentine's Day. I went to the hospital on Valentine's Day, and that was a Friday, and then I stayed through the weekend. So the next week that I had been in recovery, a few friends had came over. Take it very, very serious when your doctors tell you that bed rest means bed rest. Don't move, don't talk, find some movies to put on, a book to read, but you have to be still and be quiet. Talking exasperates your lungs and your breathing and everything. So I thought, my friends coming over, we kikiing, getting some Chipotle, they bringing me food, they talking to me. I'm thinking everything is fine. I had like 3 friends come in the same day to check on me, and I'm thinking everything is cool because I'm not moving, I'm just talking. They leave, and that night the pain came back with a vengeance, like worse than it ever was. I am screaming Bloody Mary to the top of my lungs. It was so bad. It was scaring everybody in the house. And the narcotics weren't working. I was like, give me more. And it was so bad. And so we had to call 911 again, and I had to be taken back to a different emergency room. I didn't even want these paramedics to touch me. It was so bad. Like, I thought I was gonna die. I remember being in the back of the ambulance and just thinking, wow, this is this is really a terrible way to go out. But anyway, they were like, all we can do for you, because your pain is so bad, is to give you morphine. I don't know about y'all, but what I have heard about morphine is that that's like being right there with death. So I didn't want it. But when I got to the hospital, they ran all the tests. The lung ended up collapsing. And usually to get the lung reinflated, you have to do a surgery. Mine wasn't that bad. I just had to do like some breathing techniques and come home with kind of like this breathing instrument. But I had exacerbated the lung by talking. I was still recovering. The blood clot was still there. I thought I was in the clear to have some friends over. No. So when they tell you you're on bed rest if you have a blood clot, don't even think about talking. Like, be quiet, sit down, and watch TV. Now, many of you might be wondering what the cause was of the blood clot. They determined that the fact that I was on birth control for 2 months out of my entire life, I wasn't even taking it to control birth. I was taking it for some acne, y'all. I was listening to my coworkers. They talking about some, yeah, the best skin I ever had was when I was on birth control. And I'm like, well, I've never taken it. I never felt like I needed it. And I hear a lot of horror stories about people like just their voice deepening, hair growing on their face, and not being able to conceive. And I was like, I just think that it sounds like too much. But my friends was making it sound so convincing. And then I didn't even go to the doctor to get it. I did these new little apps, like the telehealth apps, that are like, just put in your age and weight and we'll find the best birth control for you and send it right to your house for free. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I should have got a consultation so that they could have started me off at the doctor on like a low dosage. I just popped whatever they sent me in my mouth, and 2 months later it almost killed me. So be smart about what you're doing medically, and take care of your body, advocate for your body. Those are really the main messages of this video. So if this has happened to you, you know, I stand in solidarity with you. I know how painful it is and how troubling it is, but, you know, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm still here.